I am so excited. But first, just to kind of open this up, do you guys mind we'll take one collective breath and then we'll get this started. So we're going to let that out. We're going to do one more and one. That really helps me. I am nervous, but mostly just excited. I have so much love for these folks. This is a new friend, but I am just so excited. My name is Mona. I'm going to be moderating today. I helped coordinate Impact Days. I work at Youth on Record. I run our fellowship program. So grateful to see familiar and new faces in this audience. I am, so excited to share the brilliance that these individuals have brought and offered to our community, and also just to kind of show the ways that some of these folks have really influenced my journey. So I run a company called Free Music for Free People, and the umbrella encapsulates Free People Records, as well as the Denver Underground, which is a publication, and Free People TV, and we've done loads of stuff. We're about 11 years old at this point, and it has been a really beautiful journey. And so I wanted to share with you guys just kind of the degree to which I am an enthusiast. I'm going to pull out from my, I don't know if you guys were around when Nooch was on South Broadway. But they used to sell these really fun bags. I'm gonna do some. I also have other goodies in here that I'm excited to share. So as I mentioned, Free People Records. Here's some merch. I released this compilation. Each card is illustrated with one of the featured artists. So it's 10 artists, 10 cards, and I will have this to show you afterwards. One way that I've kind of branched into that world. And also, as I mentioned, we have my publication, The Denver Underground. This is our first release, Black Artists Matter, really focusing on our Black creative community. Our second release was called Otherhood, Queer Conversations, really focused on our queer LGBTQ plus community and uplifting those voices. And most recently, we released this Latinx edition featuring Chicanx, mestizo artists here in town. So it's kind of prefacing the degree to which I've kind of hopped into this world. I'm going to now introduce these folks. Actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But I'm going to pass the mic now.
All right. Thank you, Mona. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Ziemba. I run a record label called Une Records, and I'm a drummer about town. I play in Wheelchair Sports Camp, Rubedo. I play with Devotchka, too, sometimes. So that's how I got into the music industry.
My name's Thadeaous, and I also run Unity Records with my colleague Greg over here, and I also run an art gallery space downtown called Understudy.
My name is Reed, and I started Moon Magnet in 2013 with some friends, and it started out as an artist collective, and now it's kind of morphed into like a music school, DJ company, and I'm also in like 4 bands, and so that's why I have a bag of merch with me to talk about.
I'm Ben Sooy. I work at a small print shop, which is a screen printed merch company, local. We mostly do t-shirts, hoodies, tote bags, that sort of stuff. I myself am in a local indie rock band, and yeah.
Lovely. Go ahead and check this one. Go ahead and keep that mic. I want to kind of paint a picture for our audience of how we got into merchandise. And I am going to reach into my bag. I started out in merchandise pretty similar to most, just making merch for my band. I actually ruined my grandparents' basement carpet because I just went to the Hobby Lobby and I made stencils out of cardboard and I ordered some blank t-shirts and I went and got some fabric spray paint and made just merch, some t-shirts for a little tour that I did when I was a teenager. And that was, in my mind, essential to being an artist. I'm like, I'm doing shows, I gotta have stuff to sell. And then as the years went by, I noticed, I can burn CDs, and I did burn CDs, but I noticed folks started, they got legit CDs. Okay. So then the process was really going into the graphic design world and working with artists. And I actually got these off of Discmaker. Just kind of went and Googled, how do I get professional CDs? And we're the first ones to pop up. And perhaps a lot of you guys have used Discmaker or some sort of big corporate CD maker on your journey. And so that's kind of pretty traditional of how I got into it. But I will say something that was really pivotal in me exploring merch was actually having Greg come into my life. Greg is still in a band, Rubedo, and invited me. I'd met through actually my bassist on this band had met this community of artists, which included Reed, and Rubedo had the coolest merch. I actually, last night, the lady who was checking people in at UMS, the volunteer check-in lady, was wearing an old school Rubedo hat with the little laser blaster on it. And I was so fascinated, and Greg brought me in to support with a pop-up record shop. And I got to really see that this was a long legacy of, really investing in vinyl and the way that it looked and working. We went up, he invited me to drive up to Boulder to go and get the album art from this really, what was his name?
Mike Giant.
Mike Giant, super incredible.
Yeah, he did a bunch of 90s skateboard art. He was an artist for Think Skateboards, which was our favorite when we were kids. So when I found out, I was like, oh, he lives here now? I was like, oh, we got to hang out here. And he had an open art night. And then we would go, and then he heard Rubedo, and he's like, hey, you guys should play. And then we played his open art night, and I was like, would you please make our album cover? And then he did. And
for me, it was this, I already had a relationship to the experience of making merch, being, a teenager and ruining my grandparents' carpet, the process and the artistic expression. But Greg really brought me into the experience of community, of collaboration, of making stuff that, apparel that people just want to wear all the time. And it really extended, even if people weren't buying your music, they were buying your brand. And I was like, whoa, and the wheels really started to turn, and it was super impactful on my journey. So I just wanted to say that about how I got into merch. I'm curious, how did y'all get into merch?
So very similar story to Mona. When Rubedo, we were going on our first tour, and then we needed we were kind of just always doing stuff ahead of when we probably should have, or I don't know, I guess it doesn't matter, but we were oh, we're going to go on tour. And I was oh shoot, we probably need some stuff to sell so we can make some money. So we were making CDs, spray painting things, ruining our parents' porches and stuff. And and then selling CDs that probably a third of them didn't work. Yeah, kind of things like that. But and it was a lot of work, and we were probably honestly spending more money and more time making those than we would have if we would have just printed them, but it was what it was, and you figure that out later. But we went around the country just selling those, playing shows that we had no guaranteed money, and we were just out there basically fishing to meet people, and that experience, we went on a tour for 6 weeks, and we had all these days off, because I was we could play here, we could play here, we could play here, and then a third of them came through. And then we were out there just kind of selling our T-shirts and our little crappy CDs, and then we met a bunch of great people. But through that process of doing it is how I learned how to do it. I think one thing I've always kind of done is I don't worry too much. I'm just okay, we got to have this, so let's just do it. and then you figure it out, and then the next step will come, you know. But that's kind of how I got into merch, was just like, I toured with some bigger bands when I was younger, and I helped other bands. Like, I kind of just always was like, hey, let me help, so I could see how you could do stuff, how they did stuff. And I saw their merch thing and how they were selling a bunch of merch. I was like, okay, we could do that, and then kind of figured it out. And then over time, started hiring artists that I really liked, and like being able to get cooler things like jackets and stuff like that. Noticing when I would wear like a jacket that I had, people would be like, oh, I like that jacket. And then figuring out, oh, that's called a coach's jacket. Okay. And then I'd print Rubedo jackets that looked like that jacket. And then we sold a bunch of them, and just kind of figuring out that kind of stuff. But it kind of starts with, like, if you don't have a bunch of money at first to buy the t-shirts, like, then you have to just make them, right? That's kind of why you do that. But then also, too, a big mistake I think I see a lot of younger artists make is they like buy like 900 t-shirts or something. It's like, don't do that. Just buy like 5 of each size or something. I'm sure Ben could get better into that. But yeah, just kind of that was how I got into merch and stuff like that.
I am not in a band, so my introduction into merch or creating merchandise for other people is through the visual art world. Before Unit E was a record label, it was a DIY space, and we hosted shows as well as visual art on the walls. And my job was to curate that art. And so, yeah, just kind of being a part of that community, discovering that there's a lot of overlap between audio-based artwork and visual-based artwork, and that they kind of all go hand in hand when you're making a final product. There's visual elements on everything from the t-shirts to the cover to, you know, even fashion that the members are wearing when they're on stage performing. So that paired with my career in the art world, running a gallery, and before that I worked at a museum space, my focus has always kind of been on creating like bespoke or quality products, stuff that stands out maybe a little bit, or maybe speaks to specific types of interests that the people that I'm trying to market this product to have. So yeah, that's kind of my experience.
Yeah, Thad and Greg were really integral into inspiring me to make merch too, because I always played shows at Unity back in the day. And yeah, so I started out making a lot of like CDs at home, and then I realized that there's so many wacky things you can do with merch. Like for example, me and Snarklet were in a band called Bun Bun that played last night, and we have Bunagachis that are like they're like our band Bun Bun, but they're Tamagotchis. And we also have Bun Bundies, which are underwears that say Bun Bun on them. And she hand did those. So yeah, I think that my journey has been a mix of doing things like handmade, but then also buying things from people, because like doing things handmade is so time consuming and a lot of times not worth it. But the Bunagachis have been worth it. Anyways, yeah, and then I've printed a lot of records that I'll show in a minute, but they're from our friend Adam Baumeister makes these really strange records and helped us make the world's first Mylar space blanket record. Actually, I'll just show you really fast. It's you can find him at Meep Records, and this is it. It's square, and it's Mylar, and it works pretty good. And yeah, so a mix of different things. And then I made this Moonwater. It's with my friends, and me and Jay sell it to Meow Wolf, and it's from the moon. And there's some over there, and you can get some.
I think it's all grabbed up. If you got
I'll bring
one.
some more.
It's from the moon. So I have a very similar story as these guys have played in punk and emo and ska bands in high school, and print and merch and all that sort of stuff. So I guess I will fast forward to like kind of my most recent sort of like a relationship with merch is I spend a lot of time thinking about like how can artists actually fund a sustainable lifestyle of creating art. And so there's kind of two categories of merch for me, and this may be a little like reductive or whatever, but it's like there's passion project merch, which you don't care about if you break even or make money or whatever. You care about breaking even, but you don't care about like turning a profit. And then there's like kind of workhorse merch, right? Where like I actually really want to fund the next thing. You treat each investment in merch as like you get bigger and bigger with your projects. And so where I'm at now is that I've got a DIY band not connected to a label or any external support at all. And we just reflected the other day of like, hey, we've literally self-funded a vinyl release. We've self-funded every T-shirt run we've done. And we have a nest egg for like our next project, right? And so it feels lame to talk about the business side because, you know, as artists, you're like, well, I just want to mostly like, you keep the magic alive, right, somehow. But my most recent passion, I think, is like helping small to mid-sized to big creative people to, and you know what I mean by that. There's like no small artist or no big artist, right? But like, as far as how much, the size of shows you're playing and like how much money you've put into the business of what you're doing, I just spend a lot of time thinking about like, how can you make sure that you're breaking even and you have a nest egg for the next thing and doing it in a way that feels artistically integrous and you're like not being a sellout and you're like actually like being an authentic expression of yourself and your calling to create, but you're also creating a lifestyle where you're not working 16 jobs on the side in order to do that, if that makes sense. So I know that's probably jumping the gun on some of the stuff, but that's my big kind of hobby horse.
No, I think that's a great kind of intro to the next section. I think it makes a lot of sense for us to go through and kind of share some of these projects. I did ask them to bring merch to share and to display for y'all, but I would love, as we share this stuff, to also talk about process and funding, because that's a huge thing. And yeah, you already kind of touched some of those points. I'll just kind of share a little bit. So in the process, you know, this stuff putting together a CD was really just working at Elitch's Gardens and saving up some cash and making it happen. But, you know, CDs are relatively, even if I'm just burning them too, like it's not a huge expense. When I shifted into manufacturing product, like our card, this ended up being, again, out of pocket. But the process was not just working with the artists, but also buying boxes, designing the boxes, similarly buying stickers to put in the boxes, working with a printer that's not the best one to show, that's the credit card. We got Baba Fly on this one. You can see him out here. Working with the illustrator, working with the graphic designer, buying sleeves, and kind of talking about what Reed was saying. I convinced one of my friends, I was like, who is into Magic. I'm like, you sleeve cards, yeah? The Magic's a card game. And I was like, will you come and help me fold these boxes and put, 10 cards in 300 boxes and fold them? And it took us like 5 hours to get halfway through. I still have a lot of product if I ever decide to fold more boxes and put more cards in them. But it truly is quality time with my friend that was unexpected. But that's a part of like putting together this project that a lot of people don't know is like I've folded a lot of boxes and I sleeved a lot of cards to make it look, like something that you would buy in the store. I did pay for all of this myself, and the idea was that I would, make the money back. I have not. That's a lot of merch. Kind of what was spoken. I have loads of T-shirts in my grandparents' basement from several years ago. I think that is a mistake that happens, is that you buy a lot of product. I ended up buying from like some corporate kind of thing online, and the colors did not look how they did on the digital designer. And I was like, I got 500 shirts that I don't like the look of.
Yeah.
But, you know, learning lessons, it's kind of trial and error at this. I'm super grateful. This first edition of this publication was not funded. I ended up actually getting a friend to, well, it was not funded in the same way as the other ones, but I did end up getting a friend who helped me pay for some of these to be printed. I do work with Printing USA. I do work with just kind of a corporate printer, but I do like the quality, and they're kind of at a cost that works for me. These other two, I'm so grateful, got funded by grants.
Yeah.
We have these really incredible grants. Redline, they have grants, and so does the Denver Arts and Venue organization here in town. And so I got these funded not only to where I got to fund the printing of them, but I got to pay the artists.
Yeah.
And that was a huge aspect of it. And so I like to instill kind of the power that one has with their money, especially if they're going for a grant. You can help disperse those funds, and that feels really important to me, that if I can pay 30 plus artists, with one grant, like I feel that I've succeeded in some way in helping redistribute these funds to community and uplift other artists. I didn't have to do that. Most publications, especially magazines, which this could be under the umbrella of, don't pay people for features. So it is also, to me, a way of also feeding the idea that artists deserve to be paid for their stories. So it's a whole philosophy that I have in this. And I do think that the grants that we have here, we're very lucky to, have access to kind of be able to fund our creative vision. But I do want to encourage, like, funding really goes to the most brilliant ideas, and the investment into not just can I get my CD done, but how can I do this in a creative way? Maybe that extends to collaboration is really what's going to make you stand out in these kind of grant spaces. So that's kind of the merch that I have.
I can share. Reed, can I ask you to be my model on some stuff?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So we have a few. So first of all, this is a really sick tote bag. There's kind of two forms of printing that we use most often. One is called screen printing, which I'll not get nerdy with you, but the process is really fun, really cool. You burn a unique screen for each color in the design, and so a one location print with a one color design is typically going to be your most affordable that you'd print. This is a different technology called heat applied printing or heat applied transfers. So this is something that, if you want a really cool high color design like this, it's typically more affordable, especially at smaller runs. We talked about what's going to be your break-even point, and what is the sweet spot of the amount of merch? 500 shirts is too much for most DIY bands, but 100 shirts, that's a good sweet spot, and you can, with a design that you're being thoughtful and cost-effective about, you can make sure that you're making your money back and you're getting a profit to invest in your next creative project or whatever, right? So we print a lot of bags. This is a wild ass. Can I cuss? I'm sorry. This is a wild Reed. Can you hold this up? Thank you. So this is my buddy Ben Saratan, who is an artist from New York State, upstate New York, and he printed his turn it around. He printed his album liner notes on a T-shirt. So these are all the lyrics. This is the album bio that his buddy Caleb wrote, and he was like, is that going to be legible? And we're like, yes, we will size it in a way that it's totally legible. And he had this vision of this really loud shirt that has eye catch, right? Here's a simple, read if you can. This is a simple one location, one color print for my buddy's band that's called Equipment. If you know emo culture, there's like 16 references going on. There's the Hotel Your House, there's the American football font, right? It's like Inside Baseball, really. But it sells a lot at the merch table, and because he's printing with one color in one location, it's just like the most affordable that you can print with. And then I got a couple other shirts that are kind of in that category too, but this is something that we did. You can drop those on the floor, Reed. This is, we became a sponsor of when Film on the Rocks did Shrek, and this is 100% bootleg, not authorized by DreamWorks whatsoever, but we sold these at Red Rocks, and it was just a passion project for us. We thought the design was cool, we wanted to break even. But it just was like, every time I wear this shirt, people are like, I fucking love Shrek, you know, like, let me, right? And so there's just, I think, something magical about the T-shirt. I am a traditionalist in this in this area, that there's all these different forms of merch that you can have at a merch table that I think are seasoning for the merch table. But your main sort of potatoes and starch and your main sort of main of the meal is going to be, I think, your T-shirt. And it's the one that, because it sells, it's the thing that's like going to make sure that you break even. And if you know, as a business person, which every artist is, you have to think about like that sweet spot of like, I'm not going to lose my shirt on this, but I am going to make some money back. So I think the T-shirt, when done well, just does a lot.
Who's wearing a band T-shirt today? The power of the band T-shirt. Next up, Reed, do you want to stand by chance, or do you need someone to?
I'll just be there like this.
Oh, we love it.
Yeah, the two things I think I wanted to get across is just giving you some zany ideas for merch, and then also maybe later talking about like ways you can sell it and make money off of it, like where to sell it, and then maybe what to sell and how to think about that. So I brought a few things. A few years ago, we made a UMS word puzzle. We actually gave these away for free at our merch stand just to like get people to our merch stand, and we put crayons all over the table so people could like come and hang out at our merch stand and then hopefully just want to buy things after a while. And this one is in the shape of the UMS lightning bolt, and then we have one in the shape of a moon, and because we're called Moon Magnet. And this is a list of all of the bands that year that were like our friends that were playing UMS, such as Rubedo. And this is from last year. This was a similar idea, but it's a petition. It's called legalizeskunks.com. And we decided last year for a UMS Moon Magnet party to save the skunks. And we did. And we like to think we did. And because you can't own a skunk, but you can legally kill a skunk, and that is not right. So we started a petition on change.org, and you can go sign it. It's up right now. And so we put that at our merch table as a way to get people to stay at our merch table longer, and we wore skunk outfits, and it was just a theme for the year. And then I also made this poetry book that I printed at UCD. And when I was going there, I just went to their place and just printed for days. That took forever. And this, I'm going to just show quickly a few records I printed with Meep Records. This is going to be an ad for them. And it's so beautiful. And we get to work with our friend Jacqueline Sofia Cordova a lot, who goes by Ancient Future. And so a lot of the art you see will be by her. Oh, thanks, Ben. And this is a clear record by Meep Records. Yeah, he does a lot of cool stuff. You've done some cool stuff with him. He also did this one, which was kind of like a stained glass look, and he hand painted them, and they're all different from each other. So anyways, that can be, I think you can sell these for a lot of money, but they don't cost that much to make. There's also another place called kunaki.com, and they are in like some of like Japan or something, and it uses AI or something to print your records really affordably-ish. It's still, anyways, they're like $35 a record. So it's not really, you can't really sell them, but if you just want to make a gift for like your friend, that's a good way to do it. But these are some CDs I made. This was handmade. Anyways, lots of CDs. We made compilations with our friends on it. This was our third one. And here's a cassette tape that we had to hand make. It was awful. And, but, we make so I didn't bring it, but we sell these space blankets because we always douse the crowd in like a giant, like mile-long space blanket, or it's close to a mile. And we put stickers in these and we sell them on our website. They're just like space blankets with stickers, and it's a funny merch item that's really affordable for people to buy. And then we always give away free eyeballs, and also, we give away free LaCroix at our concerts because we have a song called "Give Me That LaCroix," and I think that anyways, that's all for now.
I'm sure you can see. I've always admired this human being for so many reasons, but the brand extension. So I'm not just a band, I'm not just a record label, but I'm a whole experience, and you get to be a part of that. The fact that I know I'm going to have a blast at any show that Reed produces or that's Moon Magnet affiliated. I know I need to wear shiny things or I need to wear fun things. The community experience, bringing people into, similarly what Meow Wolf does, kind of that like surreal reality experience, I think is really unique, beyond like, as an artist, if you are performing, you have this opportunity to really captivate people, but Reed does this really beautiful thing where he captivates people in the most unexpected moments. And also really leaning into this, the theme of what does it mean, what does Moon Magnet mean? And how can I attach on to like the intergalactic nature of it? I do want to, this is another thing I want to share. This is one of the first, is this the first?
Yeah, I think we did 8 prototypes. That was Moon Water.
This has been on my altar for several years, and you can see the evolution. Also, aluminum now? This first Moon Water, I will leave it out, but this has been one of like the most cherished. Oh. Did you use stickers?
Yeah, we used stickers. It wasn't actually Capri Sun. We bought it on Alibaba.
All right, you're gonna have to connect with this man. He's incredible. But just the idea where I'm like, whoa, you took your brand and you gave me this product that is blowing my mind. I've just admired you so much, and also just wanted to show that. Literally, this is like the only non stone flower thing on my altar.
Thanks, I'll pass it around so I'll take a drink.
With some old water.
Here, I'll pass these around because anyone needs some emergency.
Man, that's some cool stuff. I don't even know how to follow up to all that cool stuff. I think something that I can contribute that would be useful to this crowd would be a project that we've been working on with a legacy band, Devotchka. And it may have other applications too, but I think an important thing to think about is different entry points for your merchandise for different types of audience members that you may have. So this was the first album that kind of was their big break, How It Ends. And right now it's experiencing its 20-year anniversary. And so this was the original cover The photo that was on it is a picture of a velvet painting that was in the lead singer's house, taken with like a 3-megapixel camera phone. Yeah, and there's like a blown up, so it's all pixelated. And they weren't really going to do anything special for this re-release, and so the label approached them for this collaborative project, and we wanted to kind of reissue it, but do it a little bit better. And so we found that velvet painting, which was hard to find. We had it delivered to us, and we took better, higher resolution photos. And so this was the re-release, which looks a lot better, and it's on a limited edition white vinyl for this standard edition. But then here comes like the multiple entry points that I was telling you about. We have a orange splatter version, and then we even have like a couple additional objects that come with that special edition. There's some actual photo film strips that are placed in there, and then there is a pop-up card as well. Originally, the pop-up card was going to be a pop-up gatefold in the album. You'd open it up, and it would like pop up. Yeah, you could take out all the individual photos. But we ended up, just for various reasons, ultimately going with this pop-up card that features on the outside all the different various posters from shows over the last 20 years, and then a little pop-up of the band. And then beyond that, for the real diehard fans, we have all of that, but then we have a hand-painted actual velvet cover for the real Devotchka fans. So yeah, and this one we actually reskinned it. It's called Flocking. We flocked it. We had a local artist paint it, and that kind of like harkens back to the community aspect of making all this stuff.
What do you remember the price kind of differentiations of that?
Yeah, so the basically they're like they have a pretty big audience base. So the vinyl, it's a double vinyl. They could sell them for $45 a piece, just the standard edition. So what I convinced them, because I was playing drums for them, and I was like, you guys, we got to do something you can make more money off of it. And I was like, well, let me help figure out ways we can make this higher price point. So what we did is I had them print. They printed 1,000, and then 200 of the 1,000, they added like an orange splatter. So I was like, those 200, give me those 200. And then we took those 200, and then we printed the photo strips, and we glue dotted them in there so people could take them out, because I thought of kind of like the infamous Velvet Underground record that you could peel the banana off. I thought that would be cool. And then we were like, okay, we want to have a cool special insert. We landed on the pop-up card, like since it's an anniversary, it's kind of like an anniversary card, like happy anniversary. And a lot of people, like, they have a lot of love songs, so I was like, a lot of people met at their shows and stuff. I was like, that could be a cool thing that makes sense. And then so that price point is $75 because there's only limited to 200 there. We added the insert and the pictures, and then the super high expensive ones like $250. But obviously we had hand flocked, hand painted, screen printed poly bag, which you know about. Can you do that? Have you done that before? It's a pain in the ass. Yeah, so yeah.
When you slide out this, it can function as a piece of art that you can put up, but it also has all the information. We never thought about putting it on a shirt.
But yeah, so we had the screen printed poly bag, so it still looked like vinyl. We also threw in all the other extra stuff, plus like they're signed, yeah, by the band. So we took a thing that was selling for $45 a piece, and we made 200 of them be able to be sold for $75 a piece, and then 10 of them to be sold for $250 a piece.
Ooh. And did they sell?
They're sold out.
Oh.
Actually, the painted ones are just about to get announced, so those aren't sold out. But everything else is pretty much sold out. Yeah, we printed like another 1,000. So.
I know you're going to share a few more things, but I also wanted to speak to have you guys speak to funding. If I'm correct, Ben, with a small print shop, folks are coming to you and you're working within their budgets. It's pretty traditional in terms of a service. Reed, are you getting funding? Are you paying for these things?
Yeah, I just pay for them. I just do small runs of things. You can do on demand, of course, but I really usually recommend not to do on demand because it sucks, because it takes all your money and it's not fun.
And the quality isn't as good.
Yeah.
And you guys, I do want to see the rest of your guys' hall, but funding, I definitely am inspired by kind of witnessing how you guys have navigated that space.
Yeah, so I had previously worked in a museum, an art museum, as I mentioned, and that the model is a nonprofit model. So when we started our record label, I just naturally had those tools in my toolbox. So that's kind of how I approached these projects. So what we try to do is we try and partner with an organization in town to produce our. This is what we're really known for, these 7 inches that come as part of our record club. We also do 12-inch releases. We're getting ready to release our first one with Rare Birds coming up really soon. But we pair with an organization in town to produce these. The next one is Wes Watkins, and for example, we're pairing with Kuvo Jazz, the radio station, to release that one. And for every person, it's a little different. Like sometimes organizations can offer funding in the form of capital, but sometimes they can offer in-kind donations for marketing, or even some of them have access to certain elements of the production that they could do for cheaper or free, like printing or something like that. So we kind of, to answer your question, we kind of try and leverage what we have with another organization to make these happen.
And it makes sense. You're making, like, you are putting together, you know, organizations and artists that make sense, like Kuvo Jazz with Wes Watkins. That makes sense.
Yep. We're working on another one with Wheelchair Sports Camp and Mighell Wolf. And then, this one is still really in talks, but there's a local podcast called CityCast Denver. Their theme song is by Los Mocochetes, and they're due for another release. And so we're in very early talks with them to see if they would like to co-produce that with us.
Yeah, so it makes it easier on us because we don't have a ton of capital or a ton of time because we have to work our other jobs and do all other million things we're doing. So we're just trying to figure out ways that we can take some of the load off of us, you know? And it helps, and it actually helps the organizations too, because for example, with Kuvo, they have to produce things for their donors, right? So since we have the expertise in like creating specialty edition stuff, we could take a 7-inch that's just regular, and then for Kuvo, we're gonna give them some ones for their donors they're signed by Wes Watkins. They're gonna have a Polaroid in it. Wes is talking about recording like a special song for every person and having a download code in it. We'll see if that gets there. But little things we make them more like we give them a special limited edition thing that you can only get if you're a donor to Kuvo. So that's kind of how we can like help like the organizations too, is like they need stuff for their donors or for their Patreon members or whatever. So we can provide, or their board members. So we can provide that.
This one was Janae Machete. This one's from Machete Mouth. This was our second release. We partnered with a local business improvement district called Buku West. They do their work in Westwood, which is a neighborhood that's primarily BIPOC. So it made sense to partner with them for this because this is a BIPOC artist. The artwork is made by another indigenous artist that's locally based. And then it's got a nice little special touch in that it's a gold record.
Yep. And yeah, so, you know, there's ways like, for example, the Devachka one, that's a band that they sell a lot of records. So you can do stuff like that. But for you, or if you're like a band that you can still figure out ways to make your stuff cool and quality. It just might shrink the amounts. The prices might shrink a bit, but you can figure out little cheap or affordable ways to like make it cooler. And like, you know, like that's kind of the thing nowadays is, I mean, we're all kind of artists. And we're like kind of ancient now. Like music is kind of weird. Like, you know, it's like before when I was a kid, you could sell, like the only way you could get it, if you had a CD, that's how you listened to it. You stole it from your friend. Like, let me borrow that and like never give it back. Like that's the only way you could listen to it. Now it's obviously a totally different landscape, right? It's just like on your phone all the time. You could pull up whatever you want. So like the way that we have to sell it is different. So you're really selling to a much smaller audience, whether you're a brand new band or whether you're a bigger band like the Vodka. Like the vinyl really worked for them because their audience liked that, and they didn't even think I was like telling them like, you guys are dumb if you don't repress this for this, and then they were like, well, it's not gonna work, and then like 1,000 sold like right away. So you just kind of like figure out what your audience might want and figure out what size that is, like realistically. Like maybe your audience is 100 people. That's okay. How do you sell things to those 100 people? That's kind of the new landscape we're in. You're creating like little markets.
Is that okay if I speak to that? So, there's no money to be made in streaming, and we are sort of taught to, because music is quote unquote free and so plentiful, we're taught to think about it as disposable. And even artists, this like gets into your brain, is like, no one thinks about albums anymore. People think about singles, because you're feeling that pressure to just stay in front of people, but we all sort of treat music as disposable now. The instinct to remember, I'm in my 30s, and so I'm old enough to remember the love of a physical artifact of a CD, right? And the love of like throwing that on in my car, and the connection, metaphysical connection that happened between me and an artist that I never met because I had a physical thing in my hand. Even though the musical landscape has changed and music is now quote unquote free through streaming or whatever, the human desire for connection and the human desire for like the spiritual thing that happens when you connect with an artist's art is never going away. It would be messed up if we think that it is going away. So I think, to your point, you have to think about who are your people that you're trying to create community with. You could be gross and call them customers, but it's really just like, who are the people that you're trying to make real connection with, and what's going to resonate with them. And so the different pieces of merch is all customized based upon that still real human desire for connection.
Yeah. I want to add to that. I'm in my late 20s, and so I saw this transformation from, the CD to then all cars don't have CD players, and it's like, oh, I want to create something that is going to have that connection to people, but I also want it to be timeless. And so that's been a huge kind of approach for me, and really thinking about my merchandise. Ramakandra is a local band who puts out incredible merch. I have their album art. Ms. Lotus, who ended up doing it, or Flying Lotus, an incredible artist, illustrator, and it's like the centerpiece of my house. I like framed it in wood, just because I'm so inspired by how it looks, and that will be a part of my art collection forever. And that was a huge approach in really these publications that I put together. I saw so many people approach like a magazine, and it outdates itself. Whether it's they're talking about a show, in 2 weeks, or there's an ad, and really wanted to gear this as making a historical artifact, something that if someone picks it up in 200 years, they're being kind of transported to a moment in history. And I think that's something I definitely want to encourage. Like, as you're making, your merch, what is your mark on your community? What is your mark within, like, inspiring, the next generation of creatives or those who are also on this merchandise journey? And also, what do you want to leave behind? And I think that's when we think about also, like, who we're working with, environmentally, like what kind of product. I try to minimize the degree to which I spend money making trash that will inevitably end up in a landfill. I think you have to be creative in those approaches. And you can never really predict how sentimental a magazine is going to be to someone. It might end up being trash regardless. But I think it is definitely something worth considering in, your approach to what you're investing in and also what you're leaving behind. We are, and I also do want to speak to the nature of the power of limited edition. And, you all do access, or you do leverage on kind of the human compulsion to be a part of something, be a part of a moment, and there is power in that. There's also the incentivizing of come to this show and get this new release, come get them while they're hot, because this is the only time, and it is human nature for us to want to be like, I have that shirt, I'm one of 20, or I have this release, I'm one of 10, and I think there is a lot of power to that. Do want to speak out those things. We are coming to time, so I do want to say we would, if we had more time, kind of have more of a dialogue back and forth with the audience. But these folks are in our community. Not only can you work with them, but you can talk with them here, and you can also get their information. But I'm going to give them the opportunity to just kind of talk about what is next, and I'll kind of lead this. In my journey, I'm super interested in exploring apparel. I've recently explored the movement arts world and the dance world, and I'm really compelled towards the idea of creating apparel for movement artists. And so that's something that's percolating in my mind in terms of how I'm like going to continue exploring my merchandise journey. I'm curious, how can we connect with you, and what are kind of these future project seeds that you have planted for what's next?
So Mona helped me release an album. It's not released yet, but you can check it out at moonmagnetmusic.com/aliveness. And basically, I made a 10 web pages. It's a 10-day experience. So you opt in through like a Facebook ad. So we send you some Facebook ads, and then it's like, get a free CD, not a CD, get the whole album for free. And it's exclusive if you like sign up. So I get their email, and then they get this 10-day experience that is like every page is full, like each song has its own page, and each page it's really cool looking. You can check it out, but it has poetry, pictures, and videos. Anyways, thanks for helping me put that together, Mona. And who's heard of Indiepreneur? Anyone heard of? Well, you got to write this down. Indiepreneur. They have this podcast called Creative Juice. Indiepreneur is like the best advice on how to sell merch, and they do like free shipping packages, like where you ship people a free CD. Anyways, it's really good, and that's where I got the idea for that 10 webpage thing.
I know what I'm going to say, but do you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, so we just got exciting thing for our labels. Like, so one of our friends, Ike Owens, he passed away like a decade ago, and right before he passed away, he turned in like a record, and he was like, and it was done and mastered and everything, and then he played with Jack White, so it was going to come out on Third Man Records. But it got held up, and I was helping trying to push it through, but Anderson .Paak is playing on it. And then 10 years ago, he wasn't famous. He actually played my drums. He borrowed my drums at South by Southwest and played to less people that are in this room right now. But so he wasn't that famous, and then he got really, really famous while things were going through, and then he decided he didn't like the way he sang on it, so he wasn't going to let it come out. And then so it got all the way to the point where Jack White and him had an email conversation, and Jack White was super kind, and Anderson .Paak was like, no, I don't want it out. So we're like, okay, fuck, there's 2,000 records sitting here that now they can't sell, because for Jack White it would look really bad on him, and they don't want to start a fight. So finally, and then Thad and I were building this infrastructure for a record label, and I was talking to my friend Ryan. She works at Loma Vista Records and Light in the Attic, and she's been helping with this whole thing. I was like, we got a label. Why don't we just figure out about how buying the record off of them and putting it out? And so we bought the record off of Third Man. They hooked us up with a great deal. We bought it off of them, and now we're going to put it out. Because we don't have the same, like if Anderson .Paak comes after us, it's a whole different look, right? So his looks kind of bad. But yeah, so we're going to put it out, and that's coming out. And the cool thing is, like, we just hooked up. It gave me a chance to like reconnect with a bunch of friends who I met through him. Like I met Ruben back there through him. And I called this guy Scotty Coates. And he has a new vinyl. He owns this company called Good Neighbor Vinyl, and they have a new way of making vinyl that's more eco-friendly. And Actually, Steve Albini, right before he passed away, known as like a huge audiophile, printed the last shellac record this way, and it's more like an injection molding thing, and its price is the same, about the same, and the quality is about the same. So we were talking to him about pressing Ike's record, and he hooked us up, and now it's going to be a record store day release. So we're really excited about that. And then yeah, I'll let Thad tell you about the 7-inch.
How'd you know? Yeah. So, yeah, that's obviously the coolest thing that we're up to right now. As I mentioned previously, we're really well known for what we have in town called the 7-inch club. And every quarter we'll send you, if you're a part of the club, we'll send you a 7-inch. So you get one of these roughly every 3 months. It features an emerging or local artist. Most of the time it's an artist who's never had a physical release before, so they're really, really special. They come in limited edition packaging and colors. If you're interested in signing up for that, go to our website, unitedenver.org, and there's also a way to sign up to get information about the Ike Owens release as well, because that one will most certainly sell out. It'll be a thing. It'll be a whole thing.
So we're a service that we provide to people, and so I think the main thing that I'll say is like what's next is that I just personally get really excited about people thinking about their artistic career in a financially sustainable sort of way. And so if you want to talk merch, you want to talk about what that sweet spot of how many shirts printed means that you're getting a good price, but you know that you're going to sell at the run. It's going to feel like this limited artifact that only exists for like one run and is really exciting to people. Would love to talk about that. And then just, for real, just whatever I can do or we can do to help you workshop your own artistic career to figure out how to make it financially sustainable so that you're not sitting in the category of lack when you go to try to create, right? You can create out of abundance instead of out of lack.
Hey, before we end this, did you want to say something?
No, I don't.
Before we end this, are you guys down to be in a little video that I'm gonna make? I'm gonna just be like, woo, and I would love for either waves or smiles, and would love to share this with you. We have been sharing it, so I just want the world to see that. Hey, what's good? We're at the merchandise panel. What's good?